This video is part of a series. If you've already watched the show and just want to see what an alternative version could look like, you should be fine. To get the full recap of the show's plot and the full analysis on why it failed as a romance, however, definitely check out part 1 and 2 first. So before we start, a disclaimer. You think that I crapped on Kinnporsche in lovelywriter? Yeah, I will crap on these shows a little more. However, I want you to know that my criticism is in no way directed at the actors or any other person that has worked on the programs. For all I can see, they all did an amazing job. They gave their all. No, my beef is exclusively with the writing. I have pondered over a story that will not come together for months on end. I know, writing something bad is hard enough. A story where all the parts fit? I don't know how anyone does this. However, I also love me a good rant because very often it comes from a place of love for the craft and mourning all that could have been.
Did anybody proofread this?
Heck, was it necessary to include Kinnporsche and lovelywriter into a video about Trapped? No. But these two shows had so much going for them, so many great ideas and setting that just needed a little bit more focus and depth. And these are the things that I will build upon. Yet, the things that I loved and thought of as the core strengths might not be the ones you loved. So there will be a strong personal bias here. And it has to be said, obviously a cultural one as well. There are cultures in which a decision between individual happiness and responsibility towards authorities is still kind of expected to favor the benefit of the group. Love stories in other countries are bound to have other characteristics and goals than the ones Murnau found in his Hollywood rom-coms he researched. So take all of that with a grain of salt. But this is not supposed to be a historical or narratological analysis, rather a fun little thought experiment. Flex of the old writing muscle. And an invitation. So please, debate any of my arguments, prove me wrong, and if I'm not, but you still think that you have an even better idea, I would love to hear about it. So, as I said, I loved the midpoint. We had character revealing moments, bonding, and meaningful decisions they would not have been able to make in the beginning of the narrative. Transformed by love. Beautiful. This will be the anchor point. So, for a rewrite of the first half, one main question is, why? The other, and that is the one that will directly inform the emotional oomph of a midpoint's decision is, what do they give up by this decision? What is at stake? And one major problem in the script is, we never really know. Because the world building sucks. Are there any rules to this world? Like, who is in charge? In the beginning, Kim was just mildly scolded by Dad for killing people needlessly, meaning he can make his own decisions. Yet later, Kim is like, my dad made me do it. Why was he not mad that Dad hid his aunt away and lied to him his whole life? What will happen if he crosses him? We have no idea. And the same goes for the whole mafia thing. Minutes before the climax, there is suddenly a council we never heard of. Is Kin in trouble? Oh, never mind. And this issue also pertains to Porsche. What even is the default relationship between a bodyguard and a mobster? When Porsche arrives, he is courted like a king, with direct access to the top. And everybody fights over who is allowed to have him. Like he was a pet of a special breed. Yet, Kin threatens him with, your life is mine now? The notion that Vegas treats his bodyguards better than Kin is ludicrous when Porsche can basically roam around however he likes. I mean, are the bodyguards allowed to just leave? Pete does. And Kin just resigns too. Why does Porsche not steal some money and then run with his brother? What can get you killed? What are the effing rules? There is a principle attributed to Alfred Hitchcock that basically says, when you want tension in your story, you do not want some bomb to suddenly explode. Instead, You want the audience to know that there is a bomb under the table that can blow up at any moment. I'd like to know if my hero is in danger. In fact, for an epic story, I'd like my hero to be in danger, period. Kinnporsche are way too powerful as of now, and their mistakes too inconsequential. I mean, no one effing dies in this world. So, we need rules that define and raise the stakes inasmuch that midpoints letting go and returning does not only mean giving up a potential lay, but possibly your own life. So let's go with what Kin said. Your life is mine now. Let's say for a bodyguard, you may enter the staff like a king, but you will never leave except in a coffin. Let's go all in and have them be virtual slaves. See how giving up his freedom to save Kin's life is even more meaningful now? And as to Kin, please, let's strip him of some of his power. He has to stick to rules too. Letting Porsche go might cost him his life. And since this is a love story, let us also implement a rule that could explain in part why it took them so long until midpoint to commit to one another, and allows us to have conflict after them becoming a couple. Bonding can be lethal. And to make this a tangible threat and the relationship between Kin and his dad clearer, Korn will be an antagonist from the get-go. And this time, not only the audience knows this, but Kin as well. Dad holds the power. Kin might be his right hand, but Dad can strip all power from him if he breaks the rules. Kin is now isolated in his family, from his employees, and as to the normies, let's just roll with what he told Porsche. He never knows if he's loved for who he is as a person or for whose son he is. And while we're at it, may I also raise the stakes for the whole family? They're way too comfortable on their throne. Again, let's go with the idea of a council of oligarchs that run the city. But let's say the amount of veto comes with the amount of money they make. Kin's family is the richest and thus most powerful right now, but this can change easily. And it is Kin's task to ensure that they stay on top. So much pressure. Now, at the isolation, and you have a hero that is barely surviving from the get-go. Delicious. So why would Porsche at the start have a hard time giving up his freedom for Kin? The show explains it with his personality. He loves fun and he hates authority, and that's fine. However, personality is something fixed, and we want him to grow. So I think it is more helpful to present his defiance as a character flaw he learns to overcome. And to have him so deeply flawed and still sympathetic, it is helpful to present a reason for this flaw and why he cannot stop self-sabotaging. Because I have a whole list of reasons why I hate Porsche as a character. But never have I hated him more than in the 2nd to 4th episode. I wanted to punch him in the face. Sweetie, constantly disrespecting the place you work in and needlessly aggravating your colleagues and pranking your employer while being lazy and moany yourself and still taking the coin and enjoying all the perks is not endearing, especially when the future of your brother is at stake if you fail. I hate authority. But in this case, I sided with authority. What a dick. So, let's give him a reason for his defiance. One everyone can get behind. Porsche hates the rich. Why? Yeah, I always thought that mom was pretty underused. So how about Porsche hates the rich? Because when he saw mom getting killed, the guy looked rich, but still wanted something valuable from her, and shot her when she refused to give it to him. How could a scene look like that characterizes them, shows their goals, and lays out why they might resist falling in love with the other. How about Porsche works at a posh bar? A job that he hates. And Kin, by pure happenstance, shows up as a customer one night. He has snuck away from his barrio, trying his luck on a lady, pretending to be poor. But the person rejects him. Kin is visibly puzzled, and Porsche, witnessing all of this, he knows his loudmouth has brought him into trouble a few times too many. Yet, after a whole night of being treated like dirt by his boss and his posh customers, he blurts out, "You are a bad impersonator, man. Your fake identity sucks." And he adds, "When a filthy rich man tries to lure a girl away to do a trick, pretending to be someone he is not, he must have something sinister in mind." And the person saw right through that. Filthy rich? Kin looks at the cheap clothes he put on as a disguise, but Porsche can only roll his eyes and dishes out all the signs of being filthy rich that gave Kin away. Kin is impressed, and he strangely enjoys being demasked and talking to someone that is not afraid of him. He replies, "Well, sometimes even a rich man might have a genuine reason to get rid of his name and his riches. And that a name can sometimes be a weight too much to carry." Porsche scoffs. He wished that his name could carry enough weight to keep the owner of the bar from firing him the moment he breaks the next glass. Before Kin can say anything, Porsche leaves for the back alley to have a smoke with a coworker. Kin heads home when suddenly goons appear. He flees into the back alley unprotected, and the thugs shoot. And to keep his colleague from getting killed by the frivolities of the rich, Porsche uses stuff lying around to defend them and Kin. And he is good. Kin's bodyguards show up, the goons flee, but now Porsche knows who Kin really is, his real name. Kin leaves, Porsche stays back. Yet, this time, no matter what he tells his boss for all the chaos and destruction, he gets fired yet again. To make ends meet, the next day he pesters all his past employers for a job. But they all don't want him because... Meanwhile, Korn is furious that Kin left on his own and prohibits any further solo trips. But the bodyguards tell Korn about Porsche's skills. They seek him out on Korn's behalf, but Porsche declines. Serving the rich drinks is one thing, but risking his life for them so they just can make even more money? However, when he comes home, an evil social worker tells him if by the end of the month Porsche cannot pay rent, his brother ends up in foster care. Porsche has to bite the bullet. But unlike OG Porsche, no matter how much he hates the mafia, he lays low. He has a plan. He will steal money and leave town with his brother when the time is right. And Kin? He sees how much Porsche struggles and tries to connect. But Porsche will not endanger his plan and tells him that they cannot be friends when they are not equals. But then they go on their first mission together. A man gets killed who embezzled Korn's money, and he almost shoots Porsche dead. When Kin comes to tend to his wound, sensing his terror, he tells him what his father always told him and what Kin tells himself to keep going. A betrayal must be sanctioned, because if the rules are not enforced, the system breaks down and innocents die aplenty. But Porsche just gives him the silent treatment, and Kin leaves. Porsche has made his decision. The same night, he steals money and a car. But just as he makes his secret exit to get his brother, Kin gets attacked. Porsche has no choice. He picks him up to save him, but the two are getting caught eventually and brought out of town. Yet, the van has an accident. They fall into a ravine and flee into the hinterland. As Porsche is poor and probably more street smart than Kin, he takes the lead. Yet, soon they realize they are in enemy territory. They cannot just wander back home. To keep them safe, Porsche decides to bring Kin to a place he knows well. Him and no one else. So this is the moment that I will take a big leap away from the original. But hear me out. Throughout the midpoint episode, I was constantly wondering, where were they going? What was the plan? Plus, did you notice that the whole time Kin shows unknown parts of himself, but Porsche doesn't? In fact, we only know one thing about him. The bar by the beach. So, to give them a goal and flesh out Porsche and his past a little more, let's make this place their goal. Plus, I thought it was mandatory in thaibl to have at least one episode set at the beach, so yeah, damn it, we're going to the beach. Specifically, the place he visited with his mom every year when he was a child. And where he wanted to hide with his brother. And a spot no one knows about. And we can have the two snuggling together in their bus seats to hide from the baddies on their way there. And Kin trying to be better at playing a Kin with no last name with some locals and failing again. And Porsche teaching him to do slumming right. They arrive at night. But still, Porsche does not enter the beach house. Instead, he takes Kin to an abandoned beach bar he always dreamt to rebuild and make his own. It's a rack. And Kin asks why. Why do we not go inside the house? And Porsche lets his guard down. He might be too afraid of the memories of his mom. He has not been there since her death. Yeah, let him tell Kin what he has seen. Let him tell how helpless he felt not being able to save his mom, and how he struggled to keep his brother safe since then. But Porsche is proud. He tells Kin that he surely does not know anything about surviving from paycheck to paycheck and being all alone. And this is when Kin now can finally share his loneliness, the burden of being the brother who has to lead the business. A prospect that made one of his brothers go crazy and the other one betray his father so that he was abandoned, stripped from his name, and left unprotected. And let him tell Porsche that he himself is conflicted about the reign of the mafia and that he knows that the poor suffer under it, but that there are enemies right now that might cause riots that will devastate everyone. And let him tell Porsche that this is what he did the first day that they met. That he tried to be seen and fancied and kissed and touched, not for his name, money, or who his father was, but for himself. It was an illusion, he says now. There is no running away from that. He is trapped. He cannot flee. But Porsche can, Kin says. He can make his dream come true. And he adds that he knows a guy close by he can contact. Porsche would just need to bring him there. And Kin would tell everyone that Porsche died in the woods, protecting him. And Porsche would be free. And Porsche, for the first time, he understands Kin. The isolation and the burden, not the same as his own, but heavy nonetheless. The burden that he carried when they first met. And he feels like a dick. He says, "Can we try again?" And he pretends to make Kin a drink like he did that day. But now, this time, when the imaginary lay rejects Kin and Kin asks what he did wrong, Porsche says, "That girl was an idiot. Because she only saw Kin's riches, but not the good heart underneath." However, that it takes a very sophisticated person to see that. "What is your name?" Porsche asks. "Kin," says Kin. And then he makes up another bad backstory and they both laugh. And Porsche's like, "You're still so bad at making up a lie about yourself? You should stop forever." And then Kin says, "I can't. Because the truth is even more pathetic. Because the truth is, I am lonely. And the one I like, he does not want me. Because we're not equals." And he's right. "He was an idiot," says Porsche. And they enter the house and spend the night together. Together as equals, both on the run, both without a future. But the future comes soon enough. When Porsche wakes up, he takes the little treasure Mom told him to seek out when things got rough. They go to Kin's contact. Porsche is uneasy. Kin sends him away, but Porsche stays. Then they see the guy is dead and they're being ambushed. Kin takes a hit. But then they hear Kin's people coming and he says, bleeding, "Leave. Now. Leave me be. I will be fine." And Porsche knows Kin might survive, but he will still be alone in a world where one false step means death. And he cannot do it. He cannot leave him behind. And Porsche tells himself he will find a way out for both of them. And what better way to do this than from the inside out? So, midpoint is over, like in the show, they're both back. How can we put our two lovers through the ringer and still keep them a wholesome and epic couple? I think that now's the time to rip the most valuable page out of Trapped's playbook and have a special type of opponent to come and draw his sword. Yeah, remember Tawa? No. He will remain dead. Because dead, he is even better in creating a wound that can be attacked by all antagonists and fits with the world's obsession with punishing betrayal and Porsche as the romantic antagonist. For that, we do not even need to change OG Tawan that much. They were lovers, and he is similar to Porsche. Poorer than Kin, not a mafioso. This time, Dad finds out and will use it to gain even more control over his son. He tricks Tawan into betraying Kin. To now enforce the code, Kin would need to kill him. He knows his dad and that Tawan and him are mere chess pieces to him. But the rules are the rules. Kin is not able to do it. A henchman pulls the trigger in the end. But either way, it was Kin's love that sealed Tawan's fate. That was one reason to not approach Porsche before midpoint. And at midpoint, Kin thought Porsche would leave, so no need to spook him out. And Porsche? Well, that practically writes itself. A young man, unable to save his mom, unable to provide for his brother because he cannot keep a job due to his pride and defiance. The rich are responsible for a lot of pain in the world. But deep down, Porsche knows. The fact that his brother is in danger now is because of Porsche's own making. And that would explain why it took for Kin to be completely stripped of any power and riches to make Porsche even think about approaching him. And when we talk saving the couple from second half hell, we need to talk external non-romantic antagonists as well. So, in the first half, we only needed someone to attack Kin during exposition at midpoint to get Porsche fired and the beach happen. For that, we only need a party that seems more gruesome in their methods than the powers that be. But still, only a variation on them, like a gang from abroad led by rich families like Kin's one, who just want a piece of the profit, a seat at council table. For the second half, however, following Trapped's example, we need someone to make them talk theme instead of nonsense or backstab the other, by attacking the lovers' respective inner conflict. Well, how about the antagonists bring back the question of social justice? Hear me out. It's perfect. The conflict is already there. They both suffer in the system, but Kin, due to his upbringing in a strict, rule-based setting, had to make himself believe that his family's authority is what keeps political balance and prevents uncontrollable chaos. Porsche, on the other hand, hates authority and the rich and powerful and needs to make them responsible for his shortcomings. They are bound to clash over how to proceed with someone who wants to overthrow the council and get the power to the people. Just like a mobster and a cop would clash over how to proceed with a cold-blooded killing cop. Okay, back in Bangkok. Porsche is in love and wants to find a way to free Kin and himself from Korn. Kin, on the other hand, who never expected Porsche to come back with him, is terrified. How can he keep Porsche safe from his dad? He keeps his distance and pokes Porsche's wound. Kin says he does love him, but he does not have the guts to spill the beans about Tawan yet. Meanwhile, Porsche is working on a plan to defang Korn and suddenly gets word that there is a new gang planning on seizing the power. Porsche does not want a bloodbath. Yet, the leader is a foil to him. Young, poor, wanting to overthrow the Mafia Council and give their riches to the working class. Porsche goes to Kin, trying to convince him to support Vegas' gang to be free of Korn. But Kin is apprehensive. He is jealous, of course, but he knows his father and his scheming. He says, don't trust him. That makes Porsche defensive. Is it because Vegas does not have a big name and is a street rat, just like Porsche himself? Or because Kin does not want to flee with him anymore? And Kin, seeing the man he loves so hurt in his pride, the young boy who had to take too much responsibility way too soon, he tells him all about Tawan. He goes all in. And Porsche, knowing his lover's heart and what his father is capable of, is not appalled, nor does he feel betrayed. He understands. He kisses him and says, all the more reasons for us to get rid of him. So they split up again. Kin is still suspicious of Vegas and does some sleuthing that convinces him that he might be a sock puppet of Korn's. In the meantime, Porsche meets up with Vegas, who now presents a ticking clock. Let's say there is a rare party or a big event. a one-time chance to enter the premises and take over the council. But they need money to bribe the people who can smuggle them in. Porsche rushes back to get his mom's treasure. Kin arrives and sees him. The ring makes him pause, but he just has not enough pieces of the puzzle yet to burst Porsche's bubble. And his man is just so elated by the thought of the revolution to come. Kin wishes he was wrong. "Please wait," he says. As expected, Porsche is disappointed, yet he swallows his pride. He knows why his lover is so distrustful, and he was ready to risk his life for him to flee at midpoint. "I too want us to be free, as equals," Kin reassures him. "Give me 2 more hours, and if I don't come up with anything, I will fight next to you, no matter if I trust him, as long as you do." And this is what Porsche wanted to hear. He says, "I'll see what I can do." They kiss and go their separate ways. So, Porsche goes to Vegas. He gives him his mother's treasure and buys them the time Kin asked for. Vegas gives the money and the ring to their contact. Kin, on the other hand, having seen the ring, now knows that Porsche's mom is the key to all of this and goes to Porsche's house. He gets what he needed to understand his father's plot, rushes to the council building to stop the coup. He only has a few minutes left, but then, guess who's not dead? Just kidding. A random minion of his dad. But Kin, just as Porsche did in the alleyway the night that they met, outwits the goons, runs, but he arrives too late. He enters the throne room, sees Porsche in front of the council, sentenced to death for his betrayal. Vegas already killed by Korn. Of no use anymore after having done his duty, luring Porsche into betrayal. Played the same way Tawan had been. Dad turns around and he is surprised to see his son here. They look into each other's eyes and they know that the other knows everything. But what they don't know is, how far is the other one ready to go? What is he ready to risk? Kin stops the council. He hands over the evidence that shows that it was Vegas who planned the coup, and he makes up a story that Porsche never wanted mutiny, but was just at the wrong place at the wrong time. And that is all Kin wants to disclose for now. But then his father makes a move. He says, "Then, who paid Vegas the money?" And Kin says, "Me. I planned the coup." Korn asks, "And why would Porsche be here?" And this is when Porsche realizes what is coming. And he fights and wails in the grip that holds him. Because he remembers what Kin told him about his older brother and what happened to him when he betrayed the council. Stripped from his name and all the money, security, and power. Free to be killed, a price on his head. "He wanted to stop me going through with it," says Kin. Yet, he does not flinch. "He's free to go now, isn't he?" he says. "You are," Kin's dad replies, knowing what his son is planning. Fleeing with the man he loves. Not under my watch, Korn thinks. He would rather give up the power that he had wanted to seize with all this plotting, just to have Kin suffer. Korn pulls the ring Porsche's mom hid away so well that it took a mock coup to finally get it. Because there had once been another family with claim to land and power in the city. Yet, the only heiress fled, but she had 2 sons. So until they would return with the ring to prove their birthright, a region had to manage their businesses. Anxiously scheming to find their sons and kill them to stay in power of their claim. And Korn could have kept the ring to himself and never tell Porsche about his right. But knowing Kin to be free and enjoying his exile with Porsche, he rather drives Kin away and takes control of the scoundrel now, so that no one would be able to take his power away. He did not see that coming, son, Korn thinks. And Kin could have told the council that this was the last heir. Korn smiles. Yet, he didn't. Seems like that was a fate he wanted to spare the young man. And now, they already take his money, his watch, and his papers, and he still does not flinch. You stay put, he says. You'll be fine. I promised you. What a shame, Korn thinks. His son? He was bright after all. He knows what's up. Porsche does not. Korn lets them bring her. Korn's adoptive sister. The guy who was sent to have her produce the ring and kill her sons, he smacked her so bad. Not a word ever came out of her since. Not even now that her son falls to his knees in front of her. Nowhere to go for him now. And Korn turns to him and says, we have a lot to do now that you've finally returned to where you belong. But don't worry, Korn smiles. I will teach you all you need to know, my son. Okay, guys, I know this must seem like a giant cop-out, but to my defense, didn't the show also heavily tease a second season? I mean, how can you even call this an ending without giving Porsche his bar by the beach? So I thought doing the same would make for a fairer comparison. I don't know. Maybe not. But please share in the comments how you think the story could be tied up in one season, or if you do want to know what my version of a second season would look like. I'm pretty sure you can already guess who I would put on the throne once Dad is defeated. Or do you? Next.